A lonely orphan befriended a wild bear. The secret he discovered shocked everyone. The village of Blackwood lay cradled in the shadows of endless forests and towering mountains. It was a place where winters were long, summers short, and every family knew one another. Yet, for 10-year-old Samuel, it never felt like home. Samuel was an orphan. His parents had died in a fire when he was only a baby, leaving him in the care of distant relatives who barely tolerated his presence. He was given food and a roof over his head, but little else. No warmth, no kindness. The other children whispered behind his back, calling him cursed, saying the fire that had claimed his parents was a bad omen. So Samuel spent his days in silence, wandering the edge of the forest, where tall pines whispered secrets to the wind. He often sat on a rock with a stick in hand, tracing shapes in the dirt. Loneliness wrapped around him like a heavy coat, one he could never take off. The villagers warned him never to go too deep into the woods. Bears roam there, they would say. Monsters too. But to Samuel, the forest was kinder than people. The trees did not mock him, the streams did not scold him, and the birds never turned their backs. Sometimes at night, he dreamed of having a friend, someone who would stand by him, someone who would understand his silence without needing words. Little did Samuel know, the forest had been listening. And deep within its heart, something was waiting for him. Something wild. Something extraordinary. The morning mist clung to the ground as Samuel wandered farther than usual, his bare feet damp from the dew. He carried nothing with him but a piece of stale bread, swiped from the kitchen before his uncle could notice. Hunger gnawed at him, but he saved half the bread for later, slipping it into his pocket. The forest grew thicker the deeper he went. Pines towered like cathedral pillars, their needles whispering with each passing breeze. Samuel felt a strange sense of peace here, a comfort that no human voice could give him. But then, the peace shattered. A branch cracked. Samuel froze, heart hammering. Slowly, he turned his head, and his breath caught. Less than 20 paces away stood a massive brown bear. Its fur was thick and matted, its eyes dark and steady. It was unlike anything Samuel had ever seen up close. He knew the stories, of hunters mauled, of villages attacked. He should have run. He should have screamed. Instead, he stayed still. The bear sniffed the air, its nostrils flaring. Samuel realized with sudden horror that the bread in his pocket was releasing its scent. With trembling hands, he pulled the half-loaf out, holding it forward as though offering a peace treaty. The bear lumbered closer, its size so great that the earth seemed to shift beneath its paws. Samuel wanted to close his eyes but forced himself to watch. The beast lowered its head, snatched the bread from his hand, and swallowed it whole. For a long moment, the two just stared at each other, boy and bear, predator and prey. Yet Samuel didn't feel fear anymore. Something in the animal's gaze felt gentle, curious, almost human. Then, without a sound, the bear turned and melted back into the trees. Samuel stood frozen, his heart racing. He should have been terrified. But instead, for the first time in his life, he felt something new. Hope. The next day, Samuel couldn't stop thinking about the bear. He replayed the moment again and again, the way it had taken the bread, the calmness in its eyes, the quiet departure into the forest. Most boys his age would have told the whole village, but Samuel kept it a secret. It felt like his moment, a fragile treasure he wasn't willing to share. So the following morning, he slipped another piece of bread into his pocket and returned to the same part of the woods. Hours passed. Nothing. Disappointment weighed heavy in his chest. But just as he turned to leave, the forest shifted with a low rustle. From the shadows, the bear appeared again. Samuel's heart pounded, but this time he didn't flinch. Slowly, he held out the bread. The bear sniffed, accepted, and sat back on its haunches as though waiting. Samuel tilted his head, studying it. The bear studied him too. And so it began. Day after day, Samuel returned. At first, it was bread, apples, or scraps he could steal without notice. Then, when food was scarce, he simply sat in silence near the great animal, the two of them sharing the quiet. Strangely, the bear seemed to welcome his presence, never growling, never chasing him away. Sometimes, it even followed him partway home, staying just at the edge of the trees, as though making sure he reached safety. Weeks turned into months. Samuel spoke aloud now, telling the bear things he told no one else, how lonely he was, how much he missed his parents, how badly he wished for someone to care. The bear would tilt its head, listening, huffing softly as though it understood. For the first time in his life, Samuel felt like he had a friend. Not just any friend, but one the whole world would think impossible. And yet, in his heart, he knew this friendship was real. At first, no one noticed Samuel's disappearances. He was the quiet boy, the one who slipped away often, and most villagers barely cared where he went. But over time, people began to talk. "Have you seen the orphan lately?" one woman muttered at the well. "He spends hours in the woods," another replied, shaking her head. "That boy will get himself killed." Children teased him more than ever, whispering about monsters and curses. His uncle scolded him harshly one evening. "Where do you go, boy? You think you can wander like some stray dog? Those forests aren't for games." Samuel said nothing. How could he explain? That the forest wasn't dangerous to him, but kind? That a beast everyone feared had become his only friend? No one would believe him. They would call him mad, or worse, they would hunt the bear. Still, villagers began noticing odd signs near the forest's edge. Enormous paw prints pressed into the mud. Broken branches, as though something heavy had moved through the underbrush. Sheep went missing now and then, though no one could say for sure if it was wolves or something larger. The rumors grew sharper. "There's a bear near the village," they said. "A big one." Samuel's chest tightened each time he heard it. He knew the villagers' fear would turn to action. Hunters would set traps. Knives and arrows would replace words. He could keep his secret only so long. But secrets, like shadows, never stayed hidden forever. And soon the day would come when his bond with the bear was revealed, not by choice, but by fire and danger. It happened on a stormy evening, when the wind howled like wolves across the Blackwood Valley. Samuel had been sent to gather firewood before the rains grew heavier. He hurried into the forest, clutching his small bundle of sticks, when he heard the frantic shouting of voices in the distance. At first, he thought it was the villagers calling for him. But then, the sound of barking dogs pierced the air. Hunting dogs. His heart froze. Through the trees, Samuel spotted the glow of torches. A group of men moved quickly, bows slung over their shoulders, spears in hand. He crept closer, hiding behind the trunk of a pine, and saw what they were after. The bear. His bear. She stood cornered in a clearing, her massive body tense, teeth bared, eyes flashing with both fear and fury. The hunter's dogs snarled, circling her, while the men shouted to one another. "She's the one," a man roared. "She's been stealing livestock. Kill her before she comes any closer to the village." Samuel's chest burned. No. She had never harmed anyone, never harmed him. She was no monster, but the hunters would never understand. Before he realized what he was doing, Samuel broke cover and stumbled into the clearing. "Stop!" he screamed, his voice breaking. "Don't hurt her." The men froze for a moment, stunned. The boy stood between them and the beast, arms spread wide, trembling but unyielding. "Samuel, get back," one man shouted. "She'll kill you too." But Samuel shook his head, his eyes wet with desperate tears. "No, she's my friend." The hunters laughed bitterly, thinking he was mad. Yet the bear didn't move to attack. Instead, she lowered her head, letting out a low rumble, a sound of protection, not of rage. In that storm-lit clearing, with torches blazing and rain beginning to fall, the truth spilled out. The orphan had a guardian, a secret companion. And the village, at last, would see it with their own eyes. The clearing was alive with tension. The hunters stood frozen, torches flickering in the stormy air, while Samuel remained planted firmly in front of the bear. His small frame seemed fragile compared to her massive bulk, but his courage blazed brighter than any flame. "She's not dangerous," Samuel cried. His voice cracked, but his resolve never wavered. "She's my friend. She's protected me all these years." The men muttered among themselves, uncertain. Their dogs barked but pulled back nervously, as if sensing the bear's calm presence. Rain began to fall in heavy drops, drumming against the leaves, softening the edges of the scene into something almost otherworldly. The bear stepped forward, but slowly, carefully, not in aggression, but as though to prove Samuel's words true. She lowered her head beside the boy, nudging his shoulder gently, a gesture so tender that even the hardest of hunters hesitated. One old villager lowered his spear. "I've hunted bears my whole life," he whispered. "Never have I seen one behave like this." Others followed, their anger replaced with awe. They watched as Samuel placed his small hand on the bear's thick fur, standing there as if they had always belonged together. Finally, Samuel's uncle pushed through the crowd. His face was pale, his voice harsh. "You've been hiding this? All this time? Accursed beast!" "No." Samuel interrupted, his courage rising. "She's not cursed. She's my family. When no one cared, when no one listened, she did. She saved me." Silence fell. The storm raged above, but within the clearing, everything was still. The men lowered their weapons, one by one. The bear, sensing the threat had passed, gave a deep, rumbling breath and sat back on her haunches, calm and unafraid. From that day forward, the villagers no longer spoke of Samuel as cursed. Instead, they told the story of the boy who had befriended a wild bear, who found love and protection in the most unexpected of places. For Samuel, the truth was clear: family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's found in the wild, in the beating heart of a creature the world feared, but he loved. And in that truth, the orphan was lonely no more. And so the boy who once had nothing gained everything: a friend, a family, and a story that would outlive them all. True family is not defined by blood, but by love, loyalty, and the courage to stand by one another, even when the world cannot understand.